Back in the summer of 2021, my partner Priya and I planned a relaxing trip to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. We decided to explore the serene beauty of Assam, starting with the city of Guwahati. It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway, but one night turned it into an experience we'll never forget. Our trip began on a positive note. We arrived in Guwahati on a sunny afternoon, excited to explore its cultural landmarks and natural beauty. After some sightseeing at Kamakhya Temple and the serene banks of the Brahmaputra River, we checked into a charming old-world hotel nestled away from the main city. The property, called Hotel Chai Bawan, was surrounded by lush greenery and offered stunning views of the hills. Our room, 301, was on the top floor, tucked away in a corner for privacy. The manager assured us it was the best room for couples, offering quiet and seclusion. During the day, everything was picture perfect. The staff was hospitable, the food was amazing, and the atmosphere felt warm and inviting. But as night fell, things began to change. It all started innocently enough. After dinner at the hotel restaurant, Priya and I decided to take a short walk in the garden. The cool evening air was refreshing, and the setting was peaceful. However, as we walked past a long, white metal table set up in the garden, we noticed something strange. It sounded like people were sitting around the table, chatting and laughing softly. But when we turned to look, the chairs were empty. Initially, we shrugged it off, thinking it might have been the wind or our imagination. But then a staff member approached us. Politely but firmly, he advised us not to wander too far into the garden at night. He said it was for safety reasons. We found it odd, but decided to head back to our room. And that's when the real strangeness began. As we settled into our room, we heard loud noises coming from the room next to ours. It sounded like furniture being dragged across the floor and people talking animatedly. The noise was so loud that it became impossible to ignore. I decided to step out and ask them to lower their volume. When I opened the door, the corridor was eerily quiet. There was no one outside. The noise had stopped, and the entire floor seemed deserted. Feeling uneasy, I went back inside and locked the door. A little while later, the knocking began. Someone knocked on our door, a sharp and deliberate sound. I called out, "Who's there?" But there was no response. When I opened the door, no one was there. The corridor was empty once again. This happened multiple times throughout the night. Each time we heard the knock, and each time there was no one outside. The noises from the room next door continued as well. At times, the vibrations were so strong, they shook the chandelier in our room. It felt as though someone was moving heavy furniture or hammering against the walls. But when I stepped out to investigate, there was nothing. Priya was starting to feel scared, but I tried my best to remain calm and composed. I didn't want her to panic, so I reassured her that it was probably just an old building with creaky floors and thin walls. Deep down, though, I was just as unsettled. At one point, I called the reception to ask for water. While waiting for the staff to deliver it, the knocking started again. It was relentless, coming every few minutes. Finally, when the staff member arrived with the water, I asked him about the noises and the knocks. He gave me a nervous smile and said he would look into it, then quickly walked away. The rest of the night was a blur of strange sounds, knocking, and an overwhelming sense of unease. We barely managed to sleep and couldn't wait for the morning to come. When we finally went down to check out, Priya insisted that I ask the manager about the disturbances. I hesitated but eventually brought it up. I mentioned the constant noises from the adjacent room and the knocks on our door. The manager's response left us speechless. He calmly explained that the room next to ours was unoccupied and that we were the only guests on the entire top floor. For a moment, Priya and I just stared at each other, unable to process what we had just heard. The staff around us exchanged knowing glances, but didn't say a word. It felt like they knew something but weren't willing to share it. We left the hotel feeling confused and deeply unsettled. As we drove to our next destination, we kept replaying the events of the night, trying to make sense of it all. To this day, we're not sure what we experienced. Was it something paranormal, or was there another explanation? That night in Guwahati remains one of the most unforgettable moments of our lives. What do you think happened? Could it have been our imagination, or was something truly eerie going on? Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for listening.